Esports being a fan favorite of EU, Nemesis being a fan favorite of North America. It's always a good showing when there's a showdown between EU and NA, Speedy. Two massive regions for Pokemon Unite and two massive teams within those regions. Let's go into this here, see what these bands are going to be. It's Nouns Esports with the first pick.
We may be on opposite sides of the pond, but we can all agree that this one is going to be a very fun one to watch. No matter who you are rooting for, no matter where you are from, this is going to be a good one. So, Nouns Esports right off the bat, hovering that Snorlax, and Nemesis hovering that Talonflame. We can certainly see why after the last game. It seems like Nemesis had some similar encounters to what Nouns were playing in the last one against Sanguine. However, we never saw the Talonflame ban in the last matchup, just attempts to try and take it before the other team.
Nemesis accepts it. They're like, okay, we know we have to ban it out. Let's get rid of it because now Esports enjoy utilizing that bird. Interestingly here as well, Speedy's Ghatlue is now in the team. We had Blaine previously. Gatlue's going to take that place. No wonder Nemesis have deleted the Gengar out of this game as well.
Yeah, taking double Speedster out of it. So now the ones that are available are the Absol and the Mousecurada. We've seen that those can both be very efficiently used, and Ghatlue is going to pick up that Absol immediately. Does not wait for the end of that pig face timer. Just says, I know what I have to do. You banned two of my options already. I know what I've got to do at this point. The Meowscarada is good to have as a second Speedster, but you definitely want to have that Absol on the board first. Nemesis, on the other hand, opted to build their support line first thing. They're not going to wait to see what the damage is going to be coming out. They're going to go with that Psyduck and Umbreon early.
Yeah, I like it. You've got to build the foundations before you can build the walls, right, Speedy? That's exactly what Nemesis have done there. They have the Umbreon and Psyduck for that. Toon, absolutely no surprise, is going to take the Masquerada. They pair that with a Blissey, so that's going to be a pocket healer for speedsters here. Very difficult for Nemesis to break through, but Zacian is one of the all-rounders that can work well against them with that Metal Claw, depending on if they can hit their levels early enough.
Oh, I am really curious about Nemesis last game. I would love to go back and watch and see what their bans were and what they played in the last one, because if they're banning two speedsters and allowing Nouns to pick up the other two that have that defense penetration, what are they running that's getting them wins by running no speedsters? I am really interested to see how they work it out here. And that Ninetales is a really interesting way to start. And that Blaziken as well is great for securing objectives, for securing knockouts. That Alolan Ninetales is really, really efficient at slowing down quickly paced attackers and speedsters. So I do think that maybe they've already got an idea of what they run instead of conforming to the speedster meta.
Yeah, they're going to have to do quite a lot to keep that A9 around, because the Alolan Ninetales, as you mentioned, the CC it can drop with the Blizzard Avalanche is huge, and it's definitely a heavy counter against speedsters, but they're not that easy to catch, right, Speedy? You have Mouscarada there. They're known for being in those bushes, suddenly diving onto you, dropping a huge amount of damage. Absol dives in very quickly, so it's going to be difficult to catch them out. It's definitely the right Pokemon to do so, but you need to protect it. You don't have a weaker Pokemon in this game than something like an Alolan Ninetales.
No, not really. It's one of the squishiest things around. It's going to be Dovon. So you do have to play it from a distance for sure. And that's why you're going to see the likes of that Blizzard and that Avalanche. It's definitely not here to try and reach the same level as the Speedsters and try to catch as many eliminations. It is solely there to shut them down. It's those all-rounders that are going to be trying to survive a little bit longer than any attacker would be able to against a Speedster, take longer fights, draw it out. Although I would say the survivability on the side of Nouns is not looking shabby. They picked up some support line that help their squishier speedsters to stay alive. And really, their speedsters are it's so hard to get damage on them in the first place, especially that Absol with the speed that it has, the movement that it has. And then, of course, the Meowscarada that you mentioned, it's always hiding, so you can never really get early damage on it anyway.
So true. Well, here we go. Now Esports on your purple side, Nemesis on the orange side. This is the winners semi-final. Two huge teams going up against each other here. Let's see who can hit these power spikes first, because if the A9 can get there before we see it on the side of the Nouns Esports, they're going to have the advantage in that basement lane.
Yeah, something that I really like to see, other than the fact that this blind Torchic is really making me happy right now, is the fact that that in that basement lane there, that Vulpix, that Alolan Vulpix, is already using that range to push the Noun Esports back. It's really, well, as I say that, it does end up getting eliminated, unfortunately. But for a while there, it was holding that distance really well, even without a lot of those abilities online.
Yeah, it does. It can be difficult, but if they can utilize that range, it will work for them for this game. Absol managing to get themselves away there with Ghatlue. Zacian really wanted to poke it, but they made the right decision to retreat. Now we're going to have those kicks to the side of Nemesis. They grab all of that farm. They take a KO onto Ghatlue. Zacian is pretty weak. They make the right decision to retreat back to the home pad. This top lane has gone to Nemesis.
That's that early game that you want. You want to shut down that speedster coming in from the jungle as often as you possibly can. It's looking a little bit rough in the basement lane still. Not a lot gained from the side of Nemesis. They put a couple of points in now, but not a whole lot. They don't have anything super special built up, and right now it's just Alolan Ninetales just waiting to be able to get that freeze off. They do get the slow. Gonna try to hit this Crustle with more. Gets the freeze down to half health, but the Crustle's still engaging. The Umbreon had to get out, so there won't be any capitalizing on that.
Not too far from the level 6 on the Alolan Ninetales. That's where they get a huge power spike. Here comes the Sacred Sword from the Zacian, and with the Combustion, they do find the KO. That's a double KO. Blaziken is on the field. Metallic is feeling quite confident as they go into the central area to pick up these birds. Pikachu trying to steal what they can, but now they're being chased. Ooh. That's really smart play by Nemesis.
Yeah, very good timing as well. Very fortunate for them to be able to catch that, get that Blaziken evolution just in time for those birds to be up. Nobody had quite contested them yet in the 10 seconds they were there, so they were able to go straight from that evolution out of that big fight. Those two knockouts that they got straight into pushing the middle. Now Crustle does find itself frozen, but is going to continue to push with the team. They pick up on the birds down in basement, and they're just going to head back and get a little bit of a reset. They got some leveling some experience there.
10 seconds away from these first objectives spawning as well. Masquerada is in this top side. They get hit by the sidekick from the Psyduck. It doesn't do enough, though. They do manage to get back to the pad, but that was very close to being KO'd. Umbreon down here seeing what they can do, but right now it's uncontested for Nouns Esports. Alecki does go to the side of Nemesis, so advantage to them up there. That's how the game's been going so far. If they can pick off this Masquerada, they can push this in, score plenty of points, and give themselves a tasty lead here, Speedy.
Yeah, that was definitely a back off from the side of Nouns. They decided not to really work themselves into that Regieleki fight, but in the basement, they do try to put a little bit more of a fight into that section of the map. Right now, they are pushing just a little bit forward. They've got about half that goal zone, and they eliminate Umbreon as well. Psyduck gets in here a little bit too late to help out with that one, and it's a lot of investment from Noun Esports. They really want to push this basement side now.
They don't have any Unite moves left either, so we do have Zacian, of course, having the Sovereign Sword. They are rotating down. They're going to see if they can provide some assistance to get some quick KOs here. They do nearly get caught out by Toon. The Psychic is working a treat for them from Psyduck, though, and of course, A9 managing to disrupt Pikachu. Blaziken looks like they're being hunted down. They have broken off the chase. Metallic is so difficult to catch, but Adesu wants to. They know they're in the bush. They've got the artillery cannon, and they find the Blaziken, Speedy. Great play by Adesu.
Great way to execute that one. It's at no point in not throwing it out there just in case, even if you don't have the sight line on it. That would be your last chance no matter what. But the fight up top is still raging on. Both teams are still trying to do their best to survive in this one. The Umbreon there using that Moonlight to keep everybody up for the moment. The Psyduck is being jumped on. The Absol finds that elimination, and now even more damage. Everybody's still looking pretty healthy, but there is some backup coming in from the Blaziken, who goes down almost immediately.
Wow, Midnight Slash deletes them, triple KO. You just know Ghatlue is having fun here. They're constantly diving in, getting some great KOs, really enjoying playing that buff speedster. And it's so difficult for Nemesis to handle it, because the difficulty is the main area of CC that you have is that A9. It can only be in one lane at one time, right? You don't have two of them. So Gatlue's just going to work around that, go to the opposite lane and cause that damage. Good rip rip here, though, from Nemesis. There's a Snow Globe, trying to see if they can lock in this Regirock. They are going to be able to do it. Some good zoning there from not letting Bruv get onto that. But the push onto this T2 is here, Speedy. They literally just have the springboard 30 seconds ago. There's a Bliss assistance trying to keep them up in this fight. The Floral Flourish comes through as well. The Lecky is teetering on the edge of going in. And with that being pushed away, that one does rain. They can now break this T2 pad.
Yeah, and you have to question what the viability of grabbing that Regirock really is in this matchup. Of course, you do not want the defense boosts to go the other way over to Nouns, but it does almost nothing for you when your entire team is facing down a Meowscarada and Absol. It's not really helping you in anything more than general experience across the board, so they still end up losing that team fight despite the buff.
Pikachu's going to throw the Thunderstorm down here as well. The Desu trying to see if they can find the answer for the Blaziken. They do manage to get the KO. Now they want to see if the side up can be there. But they've managed to get back onto the pad. And what's really interesting, Speedy, is they managed to get that Lecky before the 4-minute mark, which means we're going to have another one before Rayquaza. They have the rip on the side of Nouns Esports to get that. And look at that top lane. There ain't no goals to stop it going to that home pad. That can be a win condition for Nouns Esports.
Absolutely can, and we're going to see if it will be. Right now, the buffs split once again. 2 different auras on 2 different Pokemon. They're trying to figure out how to keep themselves around as a team because they keep getting shut down, and these scores going through here. A big over score right there going through on the goal. Meowscarada putting in 50 on that tier 1, so they finally broken through to the tier 2, and that's the last goal remaining besides that home goal for the side of Nemesis.
I do like the fact that Nemesis have acknowledged that they have to be at this Lecky. Realistically, there's nowhere else they can be. Maybe they want to go for that basement buff, but unfortunately, you have to show for this. It is a Registeel as well. Nouns Esports. Oh, buddy, they may have a cheat code in this because they always get the Registeel going their way. That's the best buff you could have coming into this Rayquaza fight.
Yeah, I guess being as good as they are is a cheat code, huh? That's I would certainly call them cheaters if I were in a lobby with them. I know that much. So no, it's just high tier gameplay is all we're seeing from them right now. The Crustle not able to catch anything out, so it will slow this fight a little bit. It won't secure anything, give no guarantees. Everyone tries to draw in a little bit of pressure. That time there is a little bit of a catch, but the Blaziken is able to escape. Still nobody dropping. Both teams trying to play safe, but now Rayquaza is up, and there are a lot of Unite moves on the board.
Oh, there's a Thunderstorm raining on in. The Psycho Cut does manage to grab 2 of them, but they're not able to utilize the Night Slash to get the KOs. Umbreon is so weak. The wall nearly takes them down. The Floral Flourish says goodbye to the Blaziken. Toon continues to hunt to see if they can take down the Umbreon. Zacian backs all the way up to their own lane. Pikachu is putting in some good zoning here. Desu has the Mage build. It's working for them, but Zacian has managed to get themselves into the pad, but they get stunned, and now they can't get Rayquaza. The Midnight Slash rains down alongside Meowscarada. That's a Rayquaza taken. Nouns Esports take the win. Nemesis put up the white flag.
Yeah, a really solid win from Nouns in the way that we were talking during the game against Sanguine about the fact that depending on what they were running, sometimes they would have the early game to their advantage and then lose it in the end, or they would start to pick up in the late game. This one was all the way through, completely consistent. There was never a time when I thought Nemesis had the one-up on Nouns. They were able to carry through a big advantage to secure the Rayquaza in the end. Quite easily, truthfully, once it came down to it. They just had such a huge advantage. Absol was never caught in level from the time of, I believe, level 7. It had always had at least a 1-level advantage, sometimes a 2-level advantage on every other Pokemon in the match. So I don't think it's a surprise there that Ghatlue was able to kind of run over everything. And I mean, if you look at the numbers on the board as well, the damage that came through, there was nothing that was as threatening as both of the speedsters on the side of Nouns Esports.
It's so ridiculous, isn't it, buddy? These speedsters are just defining how this game is played. I mean, Nemesis banned Talonflame and Gengar. They directly tried to combat what Ghatlue and Toon can do on this Nouns team, but it doesn't matter. They pick up the other 2 speedsters and put in an absolute show. And Ghatlue was having a field day. The Floral Flourishes from Toon were doing huge damage to Nemesis. I mean, great play by them just to try and keep themselves into that battle, but unfortunate Nouns Esports always have some way of getting a secure onto that Rayquaza right now. What do you do here, Speedy? Because you can look at targeting that Absol, but of course that just means another speedster that Ghatlue will have access to.
Yeah, I do think shutting down the Absol is a possibility, but it's not as permanent of a fix as you would like. There are a lot of ways to work around it. So I think it's going to come down to what Nemesis are actually playing, not what they're banning. What they decided to play in that matchup were things that have worked for a very long time. That play skin has plenty of reasons to be played, and honestly, to still be played even now. The Zacian is a little bit scary. It doesn't feel like it's getting the job done right now. It doesn't feel like the Alolan Ninetales was countering the speedsters in the way it was supposed to. It was putting out a lot of freezes onto the likes of Crustle, which is just not the target that you're supposed to be going for. And it's of no fault to the player's own. It's simply the only target that was ever given to them, the only one they could keep up with as Alolan Ninetales. You mentioned how difficult it is to actually hit shots, find the placements of those avalanche walls. There's such a tall task to be done if you're playing Alolan Ninetales. I think Nemesis have to try and commit to either playing a speedster and taking away that huge advantage for Nouns, or they have to find a different answer, and I don't know that that's available to them right now. So I really do think Nemesis have to hop on the speedster bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. I think that's the approach Nemesis are going to have to take. What is interesting, though, is I think maybe we should see some Buzzwole coming out to play in that top lane. Zacian, as you mentioned, it is scary, but it didn't feel like it was quite doing enough in that game. Buzzwole at least works against speedsters with the superpower that you can use to be able to pick them up, push them around a little bit. Of course, speedsters hate CC. Any form of CC, they don't enjoy it. But Buzzwole is one that you have to face. They may be able to run around and dodge that A9 in whatever lane it's in, but Buzzwole really gets comfortable up in that top lane. You can't avoid it that long, so might be an interesting pick that Nemesis could go for. But I gotta admit, I'm with you all the way. I think you have to get on this speedster wagon and try and see. It's literally a battle of who becomes the better speedster coming into these games.
Yeah, I think another one of those answers is that they're being a little bit too passive with the supports that they're playing, with the way they're trying to support their team. I do think that they need to run something maybe like the Slowbro that we had mentioned earlier, or even take the Crustle for their own. You have to start trying to entrap those speedsters when they engage on you. It can't just be a one-player responsibility trying to nail enough skill shots to freeze a player for a couple of seconds once during the fight. That's not enough. You have to commit most of your team to being able to counter it if you're not going to play a speedster. If you're going to go ahead and hand over two of them to Nouns Esports, you have to just fully commit to the counter. It can't be just well, we have a couple of things that can work well against speedsters. No, you have to shut them down now in this current meta.
Yeah, no, you do. It's literally one of those, and either you play it or you put so many resources into just trying to stop those two Pokemon on one team. And the thing is, that's just two Pokemon. You still have the other three that you have to deal with on that side as well. If you're putting that much resources on stopping just those two, you may expose yourself to other weaknesses across the board. So this is why it's quite a difficult meta actually to find the right way to counter what's coming your way. It really is going to be a matter of, you can't beat them, join them. I think we'll have to see. I believe Nemesis are going to be taking the first pick when we come into this game, Speedy. So they're going to have access at least to picking up a heavy speedster if that Talonflame doesn't get banned by Nouns Esports. It's going to be their responsibility to ban it if they don't want it on this field.
Yeah, I don't think Nouns would be really afraid to ban the Talonflame. I do think that they like to work with it when it's available to them. It's one of the ones they'd like to pick up. It seemed in the last game we saw more so than the Absol. When Absol is available, they're more than happy to go ahead and take it. But if Talonflame's available, it seems like their prime pick. And Sanguine were kind of in the same boat. They wanted to opt for that Talonflame. Really good secures on the objectives, a little bit better than Absol, though Absol does a fine job of it as well. But really good secures onto objectives, really good secures onto low health targets that think that they found a way to survive. You didn't. So I do think that the Talonflame is probably an option Nouns are going to want to leave on the table and try to take if that's available to them. But with Nemesis having first pick here, you never know. Nouns might play it safe. They might say, we won that one by enough to where we're going to say, we just don't want them to get a foot up. We can win this as long as we don't give them anything good.
Yeah, absolutely so. And From an attacker point of view, of course, we did see the A9 there. I feel like it was a bit too difficult to catch out the two speedsters, mainly because they kind of just ignored it. They were just like, okay, we know the A9's there, let's go into the opposite lane, and we don't have to worry about that CC. We have seen quite a bit of Mewtwo Y already, and that's been used to quite a good effect, to be honest. The others, Miraidon, the Electro Drift that was utilized in one of those sets, didn't quite connect with the rest of them. So Charge Beam, that does have difficulty in the sense that it is easier to get onto it, especially if you are a Talonflame in the game. There's not really any others. Maybe the Inteleon Snipe Shot that gives you at least a lot of range, and the Fell Stinger gives you quite a bit of maneuverability. But outside of that, Speedy, I don't know if there's any other answers for these attackers to be playing. It is a tough time to play Pokemon Unite if you're an attacker main, right?
Yeah, it really is. You're telling me as I hop back into the game, and I think I'm gonna go crazy with the likes of Pikachu, just like back in the old days. Not going to happen. I'm not quite these players, so I don't make it happen quite the same way. But they've impressed so far on just about everything they've played, and now a few different bans being hovered here. There is the Meowscarada from the side of Nemesis right now, deciding that that's an issue they don't want to run into. They'd rather leave open something like a Talonflame or Gengar, one of those going to be available for sure. Well, now they're shutting down the Umbreon, something that it didn't really feel like was a big issue for them last time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the no surprise with the Gengar getting banned here. Of course, Ghatlue was utilizing it in the weeklies that we do on a Friday, and he was absolutely demolishing on it. So no surprise they take that out. What's Toon going to ban? It looks like it is going to be the Inteleon. So again, plenty of speeds to play can come this way. Talonflame and Absol both accessible, but Nemesis, they can only take one.
They can, and it looks like they're hovering it. And I think that that was a wise decision. You can't let recency bias take you away. Banning out the Absol would simply be banning a thing that you had an issue with most recently. And that is not the strongest thing around right now. That Fly Talonflame has become so strong that if Nemesis put it as a tool on their own side, then they are certainly going to have a much better showing this time. And it looks like they're hovering, bringing that Slowbro as well. No, not going to choose it. Okay, might go for the Trevenant instead and the Miraidon here. So playing a lot closer to the meta, or at least a little bit of counter speedster here with a speedster on their own side. This is looking like something more what you would expect.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's interesting that they were debating whether to go for the Slowbro there. We've mentioned it a few times, Speedy, and I'm surprised no team has decided to go for it. Maybe because they just know how much damage that Absol is going to be able to drop on defenders. They've kind of opted for the CC heavy of the Trevenant. Indy is going to take the Blissey. That's going to be really strong for their team. You can go both movesets here if you want to go for the healing, but the Safeguard Helping Hand works quite well against the CC coming their way. Desu with the Espeon. I've mentioned this a few times. Stored Power is really good for kiting speedsters, and of course Side Shock is great for sending that stun along. So I like the comp that Nouns Esports are building here, Speedy.
Yeah, I was almost hesitant to say something because I wasn't sure if I was in good company with my belief, but I was wondering why I haven't had such a hard time playing attacker lately, and it is because I've been playing a lot of that Espeon. You mentioned that stored power, the movement boost that you get, the way that you can kite those speedsters, get back to your own goal, get those shields in recovery. It is really easy to get behind your Snorlax in this case, or get back to your Blissey, or get back to a goal. The range of movement that Espeon gets in comparison to some of the other attackers that are just kind of stuck in place. You know, the Alolan Ninetales, who's really meant to stop other things from moving, not getting a lot of movement itself. This is a much better way to play an attacker. And the Garchomp coming out as well is showing that Nouns are spreading themselves a bit. We actually have one of each role on every team, and starting to feel like maybe this is the way Unite is supposed to be played from the very beginning.
Yeah, we do have some rainbow comps on the field. Mimikyu, though, very much a pseudo speedster with the way that it gets played, but it does have that all-rounder background. Of course, it's going to be difficult for them to take down. And don't worry about it, buddy, by the way, you're in very good company. Stored Power Espeon is my second most played Pokemon in this
all right.
I'm a huge fan of Stored Power Espeon. Psybeam, I will fight to the death that it is one of the best secures in the game. It's ridiculously broken. I love Espeon. I think that's why we're seeing the increase of it being played here, because it's one of the few that can survive in this meta just due to the kite ability that it has with Stored Power.
Yeah, it can be really good. It executes as well. It almost feels like the same way that those speedsters are meant to just get in and find a quick elimination or capitalize on multiple low health targets. It feels like Espeon can do the same at a little bit of a lower rate. So while it is going to be good at keeping itself alive, it also does feel like it has the ability to combat some of the damage that's going to be coming in their way and push it toward the other end. But we're getting started in this one, and things are already picking up in the basement lane. We've got just one EV down there right now. We've also got the Mimikyu hanging around, which is pretty exciting. I do know one fellow caster who's going to be very happy to see it.
Yes, absolutely. Absol also taking the central area for Nouns Esports here. They're going to come into the lane with a really good power spike. They're going to need it, though, because Mimikyu does the exact same. Toon looks like they want to get nice and feisty against this Fletchinder. Of course, Gibble can drop a huge amount of damage, but so can Acrobatics, and that means they're going to get KO'd. But here comes Absol. Goodbye, Fletchinder. Ghatlue has arrived. Mimikyu does. On the other end, it is a pendulum in this top lane right now, Speedy.
Yeah, it really is coming in with both of those aura on, and then also just finding some really quick kills. I mean, even those auto attacks are finding so much damage right now. It's a really early lead that you'd mentioned, and such quick damage coming out as well. That attack speed buffing and just a natural high attack speed, it seems, for Mimikyu is really, really threatening in the early game. Usually you have to find an answer to these speedsters, but that's not the problem for Nouns right now.
Nah, they've definitely got the advantage. Espeon is still looking for that evolution. They are desperate for it, though, so that might be the decider on how this basement lane goes. If they do find it, they will be able to have more of an advantage. But Trevenant Miraidon is so difficult to go up against. Espeon finally manages to get that Evo as we're about to hit this 8-minute mark. These central birds are about to spawn. Absol is here at level 7. Mimikyu at 8. It's going to be difficult to pressure it. The Shadow Sneak goes in. They do dive onto it. They pick up a decent amount of experience there. And unfortunately, Absol runs into the rest of Nemesis and gets KO'd. Mimikyu's not happy with that one, though, Speedy. They want more. Double KO taking out Espeon, and now they even want to push the pad. Snorlax takes a quick nap, but can Bruv do enough to defend it here? Because there's the charge beam. The rest of Nouns Esports has arrived, and they are finding some quick KOs. Blissey finds a KO onto the Mimikyu, and now they need to make the decision. Do they push this T1, or do they just go for this farm in this lane?
Yeah, I think you have to go for the farm. Listen, it was a good team fight win that you took on your own pad, but you can't be so sure that you're going to be able to win something like that again. And here it comes out. The trades are going back and forth. That pendulum you talked about before, seeing a return. They are able to take down the Talonflame as well, so answering a lot of the common threats really well this time around. However, they have a new one on the board. That Mimikyu is back in action. It is still slightly over-leveled. The Absol has come back with an answer over-leveling itself, and now that Psyduck's going down, this Espeon is finally catching up, and that might have been what they needed, truthfully, is that they were just a little bit behind from taking too many losses early on and building a little too slowly on the levels.
You're going to see if they can lock in both objectives here. They do. Snorlax managing to get the Regirock against a Charge Beam Miraidon. Mimikyu says, play with me, though, and Absol does get sent back to the Pokemon Center for it. Now they're seeing if they can actually push this T1 pad, because, of course, Garchomp has done the same in that top lane. 11 scores going in. Sneaky bit of scoring going in from Trevenant there.
Yeah, just decides that while everything is going on, might as well get a score through. Now those middle birds are back up, and should be pretty quick for this bird to go ahead and take those ones down. Now, Garchomp finally on the board. It was just a Gabite when it had taken earlier, but gets quickly, it looks like, almost eliminated, trying to get back, actually staying in the fight, keeping those shields to keep it alive, finds the elimination on a Talonflame, sends it right back to the Pokemon Center. Psyduck goes down as well here. What a huge survival from the Garchomp.
Yeah, this is the difficulty, because I've noticed that Metallic has gone for the Brave Bird on Talonflame, and whilst it does a massive amount of damage, Speedy, it's not as easy to get out. Usually the Fly Flame Charge is enough to get you out, but not on the Brave Bird. But the Bright Future Meteor Storm can do the same for Miraidon. They do find some good KOs there, but they're not able to score the points. Metallic does utilize the Brave Bird alongside Psyduck to get a good KO onto Absol. Now they break that pad, 161 points to 75 right now. Nemesis do have the benefit in this game.
Yeah, definitely not looking completely out of sorts for Nouns right now. They have been able to keep up their levels. They just got a little bit behind in scoring here. They need to resecure what they're doing right now, resecure their own jungle, get themselves farmed just a little bit more, and then start working on the objectives. But Nemesis aren't letting them have any chance for that. They're trying to find them at every angle and get these shutdowns right now. You mentioned the way that the Talonflame is being played. The Fly allows it to have so many different kinds of utility to fight with, and now it's given that up.
Yeah, it definitely has. Mimikyu does manage to find a quick KO onto Absol yet again in this battle. It is Mimikyu that is coming out on top so far. Regice is going to be taken by Nemesis. The Brave Bird there trying to see if they can pick up Bruv. There's the Flame Sweep. They weren't able to get the Adesu, but they do find them eventually. That's a 2 KO. And then they Brave Bird onto Snorlax. It's a triple KO for Talonflame. Good effort here from Absol with the Midnight Slash, just trying to defend this pad, but they do get chased down by the Brave Bird. That's a quadra. They want more. If they can get Blissey here, they will be able to finally score these points. The 45 isn't going to go in. A huge defense from Blissey for Nouns Esports.
Yeah, the target focus was beautiful there. Every single time somebody tried to put in any sort of score, it was just canceled out completely. And now the Talonflame here still finding a way to put out some damage, but it's not looking like going to be able to take down both of these Pokemon. In fact, it finds neither and does end up dropping itself. Now Psyduck going to be pushed all the way back to this Regieleki boosted tier 1, and that score ends up dropping through to eliminate. Sorry, that was a tier 2 that just got eliminated. So the top side of the map for Nemesis completely open and vulnerable. They're having their farm taken on their side as well. Things can really start to get out of hand if they can't answer that.
Yeah, that they can. Psyduck, pairing that up with the Mimikyu means Ghatlue isn't able to survive there any longer. I wasn't aware of whether that Lecky was taken before the 4-minute mark and whether we will have another one. We'll have to keep a close eye on it with no pad in that top lane for Nemesis. It does mean a win condition for Nouns Esports could be on the board, and that might be why we are seeing Nemesis get really aggressive here on the side of theirs. They're going to push down into this basement lane with this Reggie about to spawn, but Nouns Esports are here. The entire team is coming down into this one, and we have an engage already. The charge beam is getting charged up. Now they can drop a huge amount of damage. They aren't able to find anybody with it, though, because Snorlax is causing too much disruption in the backline. A nice dive in with the Dragon Rush is going to be able to pick up some Trevenant, but they do get away on 1 HP and a Dream, but the rip is on. Here we go. Garchomp, one of the best rippers in the game. They're going to see if they can take this Regirock, but the rest of Nemesis is here, and Miraidon is putting some good damage on with that charge beam. There's the Flame Sweep trying to see if they can pick up the Blissey. There's the Bliss Assistance. That's going to be huge because we're 16 seconds away from the Rayquaza fight. Snorlax gets away with 1 HP and a Dream Speedy. The Regirock is still up 10 seconds from Rayquaza, and it hasn't been taken. They have utilized so many resources here, though, with that Flame Sweep being gone. Mimikyu and Miraidon down.
Yeah, 2 huge unites used there from Nemesis, and now going into the Rayquaza fight. Nouns Esports, they're not completely healthy, but they want to try to take this one really quickly. That Blissey, most notably, has been at the bottom of its health bar for about 30 seconds now. Gets eliminated there from a stray meteor from the sky. So now it's the Espeon that's low and can be targeted. Everyone on the side of Nouns Esports just one at a time, taking their time going low, but the Espeon steals the Rayquaza and finds an elimination. It'll be Nouns able to push through and start getting this high scoring on board. They're only down by a little little less than 100 right now, so they've caught themselves right up with 1 score.
Wow, now they're going to be able to rain more Hundo Burgers in because Absol can score in that central area. Ghatlue takes that one. Adesu is going to be able to get this one without a shield. Wow, great play by them. We do have a minute left, but is there enough change on the field? No, there isn't. Nemesis puts up the white flag, Speedy. What a fight that ended up being. We were 20 seconds before Rayquaza spawned, and everything was popping off in that basement lane.
Yeah, that Regieleki was up top, and nobody bothered even going for it because it was going huge in basement. The Regirock was so important there if somebody was going to take it. But the other win condition is, of course, this Regirock only has a couple of seconds left on the field before it'll disappear and nobody gets it. Why don't we just turn our attention and find these eliminations? We have to do it if we want to take Regirock anyway. stop focusing the Regirock, take Garchomp's attention away from it, and let's just start pushing through. Make them waste their Unites or start taking the fight and find eliminations. They did both. They found 2 Unite moves that they were able to draw out and then still ended up winning the fight, somehow using those shields to stay at 1 HP and survive. That support and defender there, they deserve a lot of credit. Bruv and Indy, huge credit for the amount of survivability that they were able to throw out. Perfect timing on everything to make sure they didn't go down and they can continue to support their team. That is truly the reason that they ended up winning in the end. Even when things look dangerous at the end, Adesu picking up a huge Rayquaza. It was really anybody's. Everybody was kind of poking at it. I want to call it a steal, but everybody kind of was throwing something at it there. So it just came down to who would be able to find that secure, and a great timing got Nouns that win there in the end.
I mean, a huge thank you to Adesu, because we were talking about how crazy of a secure Psybeam can be, and then they literally go and do that for us, Speedy. So fair play to Adesu and Nouns Esports in general. They do take that second game, and they're going to beat Nemesis and progress themselves away onto the winners final. Nouns are having one heck of a day. They were 2-1 against Sanguine. Now they've defeated Nemesis, a good rival of theirs. Now they're going to go to the winners final, and Nemesis are going to go on down to that losers, coming up against Komai Esports, another EU NA battle for the ages there, Speedy.
Yeah, that'll be another big one as well, just like this one was, with lots of implications about moving on further in the season. These matches, they're little glimpses at what we're going to see in really high-level tournament play from some of these teams, and the likes of Komai, Nemesis, and Nouns all going up against each other. They're matchups that you very well may see in your next big tournaments and your next cups. So this is a really great spot to be able to see the way that those teams are starting to build as new metas progress. I mean, this is the first time we're getting to see them in this current speedster meta, and who is going to come out on top here could have huge implications for the rest of this, all of the seasons here in the Unity clashes, and also in the internationals and AOS Cup. So very huge that Nouns won this one 2-0. I mean, the first one was very convincing. The second one, Nemesis had their feet under them a lot more up until the end, for sure. They were starting to make those adaptations, and maybe that's what's important about watching these matchups, is that they're learning each other as teams.